Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Patrick Williams, who is an author and personal development coach. Welcome to the program, Patrick.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I saw something on your website that said, you're sometimes considered, the ambassador of life coaching and early pioneers, and that tells me that was way back before coaching was a thing. I mean, a lot of people these days just know, oh yeah, a business coach or a life coach, of course. And back then, they would look at you sideways, right?
Yeah, there was, especially using the word life coach because you being near Colorado, that in Boulder, they would have thought that meant you were going to lay down at a table and use crystals or something. But to me, I always thought, well, life coaching is what it all is, no matter what you call it. I mean, I really got my start as an executive coach in 1990, kind of as a sidelight to my psychology practice. And I coached executives at Hewlett-Packard and Kodak and IBM, et cetera. But back in those days, we called it remedial coaching. They were sent to a coach. They were sent to get their act together in the workplace.
Ooh, like a
nowadays
punishment.
You work with Nowadays you work with high performance people. So I really I guess I'm called the ambassador, or in some places the grandfather or wise elder. And I wasn't the first person that created coaching, but when it started getting popularized in the early 90s, I could see with my metaphorical periscope around the corner, and I said, man, this is going to be big, and it makes a lot more sense than seeing a therapist if there's nothing wrong with you. So that's how I got started. I'm one of the early founders of the International Coach Federation, which now has 28,000 members. So
wow.
I don't get a cut. I just helped found it.
Yeah, right. But it's a little feather in your cap.
Yeah. I mean, it really became a profession bigger and faster than I thought, but it's all over the world now.
So something that pops into my mind when you describe that is, a lot of times when you watch Shark Tank or different business shows, one of the comments about a product or service is, wow, this is just going to take so much education that I don't want any part of it. Right. So you described something where it was like a disciplinary, go get coaching because you did something wrong. And now it's coaching, life, business, executive, whichever facet you want to focus on, is considered something like, hey, I'm a high achiever, top producer. I want to get even better. So what do you think caused over that time some of the mindset shifts? Because I think some of those observations can be helpful for a business person, an entrepreneur, or just someone personally just to think, sometimes it does take time, but what do you think caused some of those positive shifts?
Well, I think particularly for men back in the day when that was most of who executives were, the word coach was a little more neutral than go to see a psychologist or a counselor. I mean, truthfully, I did some of the same conversation and techniques I would have done in my office with them in their office, but it wasn't intensive psychotherapy. It was just helping people gain understanding, make better choices, realize relationship, what today is called emotional intelligence. That word hadn't been invented yet. But I think the other thing that shifted is both good and bad. The word coach has become ubiquitous, which is good in some ways, but everybody's calling themselves a coach. I'm your money coach, your health coach, your fitness coach, your coach, et cetera. But as long as the public knows there are places where they can see where a person trained, got certified, got credentialed, got proper training, that's the difference between seeing maybe a what's the word? Well, just an unscrupulous business professional. Coach is not licensed, and we don't want it to be licensed because then you get the government involved and this and that. But it's kind of like consultants. Consultants aren't licensed either. You find a good one or you find a bad one, and you word of mouth. And coaching is to help you, the client, achieve your best, learn what you've not learned, think what you've not thought, dream out loud with a committed listener. And that's when, I hate to use the phrase, but that's when the magic happens. And I don't mean that like a 3 a.m. infomercial, but it's magical that what you've kept unstated and unshared has more likely a chance to get to get created if you write it down and then share it with somebody and then get coached on it, because you hear yourself differently.
Yeah, kind of like the tipping point.
That's what's helped people see it as I think everybody deserves a coach. They don't need a coach.
Yeah, that's interesting. And if there were not good outcomes and results, then it would have just fizzled out. And I'm sure we could think of a lot of things that were a fad or a thing, and that didn't really do what it said it was going to do, so now it's just gone. So because people get results and, see positive feedback, then it gains that traction. And I think you said something interesting too, is part of coaching is, someone looking from the outside in, seeing some things and with you, not telling you, but with you, and then coming alongside and encouraging and accountability and all of those things play into it. Because if you sign up for a webinar, you can easily not show up. But if you pay your money and, you put something on the, discussion board, I'm going to be there, and maybe it's a responsibility that you need to be there and do some homework ahead of time, now you got a little skin in the game.
Yeah, and I think, you raise it. You use some great language. I mean, that's exactly coaching is. Can be a guide on the side, an egalitarian partner. We're not there to advise or tell how to fix problems, but we're also, even in the realm of business coaching or entrepreneurial coaching, you do expect that coach to know something about business. Mm-hmm. Or if I want a wellness coach, I expect a coach to know something about wellness. I'm not looking for medical advice. I'm not looking for a personal trainer. The coach may guide me that way, but the coach is kind of a conversational partner about what you want, and some of them have a special expertise in a niche. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost like that's the bare bones minimum. You better have some knowledge in that field or industry. So what do you think when you're working with clients? What is the traditional, typical, most common type of client that you're working with, and what are they looking to accomplish?
Well, it's interesting that you've got me on a show about leading entrepreneurs, because before I became a coach, I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur. I had a psychologist practice, and I got this creative idea to become a coach, and then I created a coach training institute, which I owned for 15 years, and so I realized I had an entrepreneurial idea, and I created a business bigger than I even thought I would. But just like me, when I needed a coach, most clients, from the lawyers and executives I've coached, government employees, I have lots of specialties. The most common is, I will say, life management, because I don't like to say time management, but organization, life management, and learning to focus on what you want so that the energy drainers that take you away from that don't become what we call psychic vampires. So people have to learn, what choices am I making unconsciously that keep me from getting what I want. And a lot of times, coaching clients are able to say the things they've not said elsewhere and say, I didn't really want to be a lawyer. What I really wanted to be was a teacher. I mean, I've got a story like that in my book, and it's like, well, who have you told that to? Nobody. So because they're in a sense almost subconsciously wanting a little bit of an out. Yeah. They don't want to be held responsible, and people to think, how's that book coming? How's that project coming? And it's now I got to do something about it. Right. So I think the common theme is organization of time and energy, and then choices toward a designed future. You can't quit. I mean, unless you've got $100,000 in the bank or something, don't quit what you're doing and go try to create a new life, but do it gradually. Step into the water a little bit at a time. Test it out. In coaching, we say there really aren't any failures. There's only results. So you go try things, and, if they're not dangerous, stupid financial things, you'll be all right.
Yeah, you either win or you learn, and I think a lot of people think you win or you lose. Oh, no, I lost.
Right.
Interestingly that you bring up time management, because I think that is an old school cliche type phrase, but, it's kind of like the concept of having a sense of urgency and maximizing the moment. And it doesn't really matter if you are maximizing the moment if you don't have that end goal, kind of like Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. And that presupposes you need to know where you're headed and what you want, because why do I need to maximize this moment if I don't even know where the heck I'm going? So I think that becomes, the kind of like you got to have all the pieces in place, and then now you can go, okay, now to get there, ultimately, I need to be doing this today because that's going to get me one notch closer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's one of the bottom lines. I won't say the bottom line, but here's one of the hot pockets of coaching, is that you have an accountability partner, not somebody who's going to hold your feet to the fire, although some of my clients say I might have a velvet boot. I'll kick them in the butt softly, like, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do it. What got in the way? That accountability is more than we could do having a conversation with ourselves. Could I coach myself? Well, I do all the time. But as soon as I get in a conversation with a committed listener, I hear it different. I get different questions asked. I get more accountability. Now, you don't need a coach forever. You might get a coach for a few months and then come back, with a different coach at different times. I've had clients for years. I've had clients for just a few weeks. So coaching is a service that's available to help you maximize your potential and think what you've not thought, say what you've not said, like I said earlier, so that you can create what you want.
Do you think, though, that what you just said, makes sense? Of course, might be a few days, weeks, months, years. Don't think that signing up with the coach is your life, commitment. But with the thought of shiny object syndrome in mind, from the marketing world, I tell my clients, here's this new, strategy that, you've mentioned. Right. You know what the best marketing strategy many times is? The one you're going to do consistently. So in other words, don't just try something for a minute and then go, that didn't work. So where do you find the line in advising a coaching client? You know what? We've got to give it enough time to get some traction and work, and then from there we've set a milestone that, okay, at this point let's evaluate. Is there another milestone we want to hit, or are you good to go for a few months and then we can talk later? But I think that we want to make sure that people would not dip their toe in the water and try it for 2 days and then go, okay, well, now I'm off to another person, and you never gain momentum.
Coaching's not meant to be a quick fix. It's not meant to be. Back in my days as a psychologist, they had short-term psychotherapy. It was like there was a joke in a cartoon, and a client came back for a second session and say, "What? You're back?" Like one session was supposed to fix the problem. Right. And in coaching, I think a rule of thumb for me, and I think in the industry, is if a client wants to get the value out of coaching, they should probably look to engage in somewhere between 3 to 6 months of a relationship. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to do weekly coaching, 3 months could be good. If you're going to separate it by 2 times a month, maybe you need 6 months, because it's that continuity and punctuation of what you're working on that happens. That then you say, okay, I'm ready for a while, or let me just check in with you once a month, or let me do this, and then other goals come up. So they come for one goal, got that, okay, I moved, I got married, I got this job. Now, you know what? I want to create this new business. Well, then a coach on the side is somebody that should be in your budget as a conversational partner that's going to be important. I mean, I just think it needs to be, in most cases, coaching should probably be a budget, just like an accountant or a lawyer might be for some. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't see the lawyer every week. You don't see an accountant that often. But a coaching conversation, for a few $100 or whatever, is going to maximize what you're trying to do with your life, whether it's financial or other ways you measure the resource.
Yep, I agree. Hey, so let's wrap up with some thoughts on your books. You've written a lot of books, but you've got a new one out, so tell us what prompted that one and what that one is about. Getting Naked.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Getting Naked, so the book that will fall off the shelf if people still want the shelves to buy them. But so I wrote 6 books in the coaching profession, even one as boring as ethics. It's not boring, but so for the profession of coaching, I've written a lot of books that people can find on Amazon. My latest one is called Getting Naked on Emotional Transparency with the Right Person at the Right Time in the Right Place. My whole view, clear back before I even entered college, was the value of honest communication with the right person at the right time. Some of us hold so much inside. We have things hidden in what's called our shadow, good and bad. I mean, we have things that we could shine the light on that are great dreams and wishes that haven't been shared. So it's not just the dark, bad stuff. But the book about getting naked is a metaphor, not nudity, but it's a metaphor for finding some place and some person who can listen to your honesty. You don't want to do it everywhere, just any more than you want to be naked anywhere. And there are people who share too much with the wrong person. There are people who don't share enough and they keep things bottled up. And I'm not talking about those that have a great deal of angst and need to see a therapist. That's one thing. That's curative or palliative. But eventually, we all have parts of ourselves that are unrealized. So the book, Getting Naked, it's got lots of cute chapters, and it's written with a sense of lightness. One of my favorite chapters is called 50 Shades of Play, Take Life Seriously while having fun. So it is about learning to share, learning to be honest, learning to be transparent. I think it follows on the heels of Brene Brown's work on courage and vulnerability, but it's written from a more personal it's got a lot of my story and a lot of my clients' stories, and then some practical advice that goes into each chapter.
So I think that kind of reminds me of some of the buzzwords we hear these days about being authentic, being transparent. But it's kind of like how to do it, but then how to do it at the right place and the right time with the right people, in the sense that you shouldn't just be transparent and, now we should always be authentic, but there's a time to go to this level with this kind of person in this kind of situation, and a little deeper here and a little lighter there. Yep.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes that I put in the book, Oscar Wilde said, "You might as well be yourself because everyone else is already taken."
Yeah, I love that one. That's pretty awesome.
But a lot of us don't know who we are, especially in our younger years. So we've all got scars and warts and wrinkles, metaphorically and realistically. But if you find somebody, and it might be a coach, the coach is somebody who professionally you can talk to about your wants and your blocks and obstacles and all that. Might be a therapist, might be a minister, might be a really good friend. But you've got to find somebody you can trust most of the time who will just listen and not try to fix. And you'll find new ways to go in your life. That's the key.
Sure. Hey, so what's the best way that people can reach out to you and also learn more about picking up your new book?
Yeah, so my website, www.drpatwilliams.com, has everything from my blogs, signing up for the newsletter, the new books, links to the books on my Amazon page. The new book is an audio book, so you can actually listen to it. As if you buy the Kindle book, you also get the Whisper Sync, so you can listen to it too. And everything else I'm up to in terms of speaking and workshops, etc., just drpatwilliams.com.
Awesome. Hey, Pat, thanks so much for your time today. It was wonderful getting to know you.
Great. Thank you much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.